In England, an artist named Mark wakes up early within the morning when he hears his neighbor Enid calling out his call through the wall. She says that something is going on obtainable. Mark ignores her and leaves the bed simplest to find out that the electricity is out. Whilst he tries to open the window, it appears to be stuck. He seems out and notices a man in some other constructing desperately pounding on his window, but he thinks it is only a wacko. Then Mark attempts to make a few tea and discovers that the water is not operating either. He examines the fridge for an exchange drink. However, for the reason that electricity went out, the milk has long passed bad. Mark decides no longer to have breakfast and searches for smooth garments whilst listening to Enid ranting through the wall. His alarm didn't ring both due to the dearth of electricity, so Mark realizes he is overdue. When he's approximately to leave, he gets a name from his ex-spouse, who is bored with him being an irresponsible father. They argue for a while, and Mark promises to be there quickly, but while he tries to open the door, he unearths it absolutely caught. A closer appearance reveals an ordinary substance sealing the door. All at once, the smartphone makes a screeching sound, and the decision ends. Mark tries the landline, however it is not running either. He then looks out the window and notices that many pals cannot open theirs, which makes him recognize that everyone in town has been sealed inside their flats. At the streets, men in hazmat fits are patrolling the place. Mark attempts to invite Enid about it, but he hears something breaking in her place, and he or she would not communicate anymore. Getting worried, Mark grabs a few equipment and attempts to USA the door. He's suddenly startled via a voice at the intercom, which reasons him to badly hurt his hand with a hammer. The voice tells him to live comm and that the scenario is below manipulate. At the same time as Mark bandages his harm, he's taken aback to see his wall shaking. A hole opens up and Sergei seems with his brother, Niku. Sergei immediately checks the home windows and is disillusioned to peer they're sealed here, too. Mark makes use of the hole to visit Sergei's apartment and confirms his door has additionally been sealed. At that moment, they are joined by using Sally and Aiden, a neighboring couple who also came via the hollow. Aiden says that the government must have put up a signal jammer to prevent everybody from contradicting the legit story. Dropping his staying power, Aiden is going from condo to rental to see if he can find signal. The voice inside the intercom reminds them to remain calm. Mark tries talking to it, but the intercom just repeats the identical message. Sally notices that Mark's hand is bleeding, and considering that she's a nurse, she volunteers to attend to the wound. Later on, Sergei starts breaking down the wall to Enid's region. The intercom repeats the identical message, and this time, it provides that a clinical team is coming. While the hollow is finally done, the organization crosses to the other condominium and reveals Enid on the floor. Luckily, they control to wake her up quick, and he or she's exceptional. Moments later, they appearance out the window and notice the guys in hazmat fits putting in place scientific tents. Then the men enter a constructing by way of decontaminating the doorway and produce out a few sick-looking folks who are taken to the tents. In some of the windows, they see acquaintances coughing. Sergei thinks it is terrorists and Aiden mocks him, inflicting him to get competitive. While the intercom speaks once more, it says that there's been a gas leak inside the location. Aiden is trying to mild her cigarette, so Mark immediately takes the lighter away. Aiden thinks the fuel leak is a lie and Mark concurs. On the windowsill, a mosquito falls lifeless. As hours pass, more and more humans are added out of buildings and dispatched to the tents. One of the evacuated men attempts to apply the threat to run away, however he's right now shot within the head. All of the pals on the windows look away in horror while the person's family outdoor freaks out. Some day later, they see the hazmat people barging into different residences to pull human beings out. Mark thinks they need to escape before they arrive for them too, and most of the institution agrees. Although Aiden is frightened of the sniper, Mark recalls he has some corrosive chemical compounds that he used for sculptures, so he mixes them in a bucket and throws them on the door. This efficaciously gets rid of the sealant, but additionally creates a few disturbing smoke. After anybody covers their faces, they are trying to open the door, but it's nonetheless stuck. They hear some noises at the lower floor and recognize that the men are raiding their building. Human beings outdoor are trying to escape and preserve getting shot down, although one of the employees also receives stabbed in the method. The group decides to attempt the door again, and this time they subsequently control to open it. They talk away to continue handiest to realize that Niku is missing. While all of us begins looking the flats, Niku is hidden within the vents and watching how a neighbor is arguing with the hazmat workers due to the fact they need to sedate her. Unexpectedly, the woman collapses and the guys recognize she's degree 3, so they will abandon her there and reseal the condo. At that moment, Sergei finally unearths Niku and throws down a few sheets to tug him out. However, Niku cannot clutch them because the workers listen the noise and right away take the boy away. Sergei and Mark rush downstairs and Sergei starts off-evolved beating a person up with a bat. By the point Mark stops him, the guy is already useless. Then Sergei drags the opposite employee to the apartment for interrogation at the same time as Mark exams on Niku. Within the apartment, Sally and Aiden are arguing because Sally known as Aiden uncaring. He gets condescending, so Sally throws his cell phone on the ground. Sergei returns with the body of worker's worker and knocks her down. The institution goes via the employee's bag and finds tear gasoline grenades. Then Sergei pushes her in opposition to the window with a signal that asserts, we're given one, which is visible by using different friends and employees. At the same time as Sergei ties the female up, her radio gets a message announcing that the scenario is out of control. Mark tries to talk to the man on the radio, however he refuses to talk to a civilian and asks for his coworker. When Mark is ready to give the radio to the lady, Sergei snatches it from him and demands a proof. All of a sudden, masses of yelling can be heard at the radio and the communication ends. Mark talks lightly to the girl and she or he introduces herself as Hazel. She swears that her human beings are right here to assist and feature best added weapons for self-defense because many locals aren't taking the scenario nicely. When Mark attempts to get rid of the hazmat fit, she freaks out and pushes his arms away. He concludes she's protecting herself from them. Hazel explains that a month ago, an atypical sickness regarded within the area. They tried to isolate it, but it spread in no time. It's all being kept secret to avoid giant panic, which might only make matters worse. The virus starts off evolved in the throat by making it tough to breathe or talk. The following level is lack of sight, and ultimately the crucial organs shut down separately. Scientists have been looking for a remedy to no avail. Abruptly, a frustrated Sergei cuts the hazmat fit, and Hazel at once takes out an injection that Sergei steals from her. Hazel admits there's a vaccine, but it is nevertheless a prototype, so she isn't sure if it's going to work. The high-quality thing they are able to do for now could be live internal. Within the night, the organization continues to be discussing what to do with the vaccine. They don't forget sharing it, but the dosage is too low. While anyone is chatting, Hazel manages to free her hands and tries to run away, but Sergei Speedy catches her and throws her to the ground. The others right now pull him lower back to forestall him from getting violent. And within the warfare, Sergei by chance slaps Niku, making him cry. Hours retain to skip and Aiden maintains attempting the radio to no avail. He wants to get tested, so Hazel reveals that her useless colleague had a checking out package. The organization is surprised to see no hazmat staff out of doors while unexpectedly an indignant mob comes out of a building. They appearance up at their window and the organization realizes the mob is coming for Hazel. The intercom starts off evolved ringing and Mark solutions it to hear a man provide an explanation for that his spouse is unwell and his daughter was taken. So, he needs to speak to the prisoner to ask in which the vaccines are. Mark tells him that Hazel is aware of nothing, however the guy does not trust him. So, Mark says he have to ask the alternative body of workers individuals. The guy confesses they did capture one, but he were given killed. So, Hazel is the handiest employee left. The group wants to get interior this constructing, but the group says no due to the fact they do not want to get infected, and Sergei breaks the intercom. Then, loud noises may be heard outside, indicating that the indignant mob is breaking in. Sergei grabs Hazel and begins dragging her, proceeding to throw her to the gang. However, Hazel says that if he does that, she'll inform the gang that they're hiding a vaccine. Listening to the mob getting closer, Sergei, Mark, and Sally drag one among Mark's heavy sculptures to the hall to dam the door. In the meantime, Hazel manipulates Aiden through telling him she is aware of wherein to find a checkpoint with more vaccines, convincing him to go away together with her. But Enid and Niku go back to the room, so for now they will have to wait. Inside the hall, the crowd reaches the door and stands pounding on it. Sally attempts to lead them to see cause, but a man breaks the window and a shard of glass slashes her neck. Sergei throws a tear-fuel grenade through the hole, so the mob panics and leaves. Mark and Sergei deliver Sally lower back to the condominium and the group frees Hazel so she will assist her. Hazel tries the whole lot she will be able to, however sadly Sally has already misplaced too much blood and she or he dies. Aiden has a breakdown and runs to any other room. After wrapping Sally's frame in sheets, the group realizes that Aiden is missing. It seems he's taken Hazel's hazmat in shape and repaired it with tape to depart the apartment. Inside the privacy of the hall, he uses the vaccine on himself. Then he pushes the sculpture off and goes outdoor. But now the angry crowd thinks he's a group of workers member and fast surrounds him to begin beating him up. Abruptly, the sniper shoots a few times inside the air and the gang runs away. After a few hesitation, the sniper shoots Aiden down. Greater hours skip and the institution is dropping their minds. Mark destroys all the photos of his own family and Sergei might not stop drinking. When they listen a few noise outside, Sergei opens the door simply sufficient to peek and notices that the group is coming. Mark pushes Niku and Enid into the alternative condominium and then attempts to loose Hazel. However, Sergei would not need her to come with them, so he knocks Sergei out with his bat earlier than leaving. While Mark wakes up, he's by myself in the condo. He looks out the window and discovers that greater workers in hazmat suits have arrived and are connecting their truck to a constructing to launch poisonous gas. Within the neighboring apartment, the others placed on masks and try to depart, but Sergei is all at once tackled by a furious Mark. Enid has to convince him not to kill him. At that second, the fuel starts coming via the vents, so Mark says they must go as much as get smooth air. On their way to the steps, they see Hazel's useless frame with the joint up her lap. A neighbor startles Sergei from in the back of, and Sergei right away beats him up. The other residents surround him and Sergei begs for assist. However, Mark knows he can't fight all of them and leaves with Niku and Enid. Because the crowd drags Sergei away, Mark locks the door the usage of a metallic rod. The trio discovers that the door to the roof is likewise locked, so Mark starts hitting the lock with a device till he breaks it. They take the ultimate ladder and sooner or later make it to the roof to respire fresh air before the fuel should reach them. No snipers react to their presence, in order that they guess they left to avoid the poison. The trio comes to a decision to sleep on the roof, cuddling each other for warmth. Within the morning, Mark wakes up and is devastated to find Enid useless. Then, he tells Niku to hold his eyes closed and carries him downstairs, seeing masses of our bodies on his manor down. Finally, they make it to the tent out of doors, however there's no person around. At that second, they pay attention an announcement asking humans to live inside, and anyone observed on the streets may be treated as an infection danger. Mark places on a hazmat fit and leaves with Niku without suspicion. Suddenly, a neighbor surprises them from behind and captures Niku, threatening him with a glass shard. Niku hits the man to loose himself, so the person jumps on Mark to stab him instead. Mark manages to carry the fellow down on the same time. Later on, Niku allows Mark stroll, but it's clean that he does not have tons time left. Mark offers Niku his telephone, telling him to keep on foot until he finds a sign and to text his ex-wife for assist. After Niku leaves, Mark stops looking to maintain on and dies. Quickly, two guys in hazmat fits seam in the back of Niku and inject him with a sedative. Some day later, Niku wakes up in a tent full of children. The team of workers contributors assure him that everything will be quality and Nikki wonders if he need to send the text. Make sure to subscribe and activate notifications so that you can watch extra videos like this. Thank you for looking.